Alright, what do we want to do? First thing, let's get our Twitch updated. Twitch.tv/JonoCochin. Gotta remember to finish that G. Goomba Stompin', never had the G at the end. Alright, now for Streamlabs, I wanted to get some widgets running. Chat box. Launch this bad boy. Now, let's see. I think just by nature of having it open, I should be able to see my chat through it. So we'll see if that works. And then alert box also has a widget. Launch that bad boy. Looks pretty. I'll minimize it. Alright. Now, just in case that's not coming through the way I want it to. That's not. I hear myself. I'll go ahead and pop this one out. Oh, I see somebody popped up onto my screen. Woohoo, it works. How exciting. Oh, but then they disappear. Then the message disappears. Okay, okay. Alright. What's up, Jason? I wonder what it means to quickly transit back. Let me go ahead and pop this bad boy out. Boom. That way I don't have to have amazing tracking when I keep track of all this stuff. Alright, cool. Let's go ahead and pull back up the League YouTube channel so we can get some more non-filtered or non-muted audio for the stream. I promise that by next Monday I'll actually have legit audio rather than this League sanctioned music. Yeah, man, bell and whistle number 1, chat box. Bell and whistle number 2 is the follow alerts and the donation alerts. That's kind of cool. Let's go ahead. I was actually thinking about doing that, what's it called? Viewer count thing as well, but I figured it might be depressing at a certain period in the day. I just downloaded OBS Studio rather than normal OBS, so I'm hoping it doesn't give me any guff today. And I don't know if my microphone noise gate is on. I'm assuming it's not until I set it up. So I kind of want to tinker around with that. Maybe I'll take a look right now at that. Oh, I can always get some music going first. What is League of Legends? Oh, here we go. Music videos. Smite and Ignite. I like this idea right over here. These little playlists. War songs, huh? We'll let that run in the background. Oh, I remember this song. Okay, alright, alright. Got my League client squared away. Is my League client showing up on the screen? Noise gate isn't on at the moment. Thank you. Alright. All default. Enable push to mute. Don't really need that. Delay. Desktop audio. That's weird. The noise gate isn't under audio. Output? No, it's video more or less, or bitrate. Stream general. Yeah, I noticed that the client wasn't there, and I think it's probably an okay thing just because since today I don't plan on doing too much in the gaming department, I think it's okay that it doesn't display. right now. Advanced. Ah, here we go. Maybe. Oh no, this is kind of recording, stream delay network. I don't see the noise gate on here. What's up, Swagner? Have you and Beerman gotten any chance to do the duoing lately? Advanced audio properties. Oh, I think we're getting closer. Audio monitoring. The day overall is going alright. A little stressful for a day. I was hoping to be streaming and catching a couple brewskis, but I forgot to put some in the fridge, so those are on hiatus till I finish. Properties, maybe? I do not know how to get my microphone noise gate set up on OBS Studio. Shame on me, I probably should have figured out how to do that ahead of time. It's got to be on here somewhere though, because I doubt they'd be able to keep their product running without the features from the other one. It's funny because they have advanced audio properties everywhere, but none of them lead me to... Alright, tell you what. Rather than mumble about it the whole time, let's Google it one time, and if I can't get it on the first try, we'll abandon it. Microphone noise gate. Aw, yeah, work life. That's good that Matt's pushing for plat. I think. OBS Studio. It's only a matter of time before you get the itch for Platinum 2. The climbing, grinding urge. OBS Studio. How to configure your microphone. Noise suppression. Okay. Oh, I've seen that menu before. They chose the smallest damn image there is. Okay, noise gate and gain filter come right with OBS, but you have to grab and install the mic DSP plugin. Uh-oh, that sounds like some work. I probably have to reboot the stream. You know, I don't think we're gonna do that tonight. We're probably gonna have to do that another time. That's okay. If background noise gets too annoying, I can always switch back to original OBS, and then I'll only have to whatchamacallit, reboot the stream once. Yeah, I know the feeling on missing the game. When I was training to go to EVO down in Vegas for the fighting games, man, for whatever reason, I had the League bug bad. I wanted to play League so bad, and it's like hard to focus on other stuff when you really wanna get some games in. Yeah, first season gold is fantastic. You know, it's super, super good. That's what I got on my first season too. Way back in season uno. A long time ago. Okay, cool. Well, I think we're probably as good to go as we can be. Check one more thing here. This music too jammin'. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and just kind of get rolling, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So first, as always, I'm going to just go ahead and open the floor to questions from the chat, as it will stay open throughout the... Oh, I guess that's one thing I can do. I can put an Ask Me Anything sign up on the stream itself. So I'll go ahead and do that. But while I'm doing that, any questions regarding League tactics, League meta, League anything, I will go ahead and answer. And then if we don't have any of those in the chat, we'll go ahead and hop over to, I think I'll start with the Summoner School on Reddit and just start knocking them out and answer as many questions in detail as I can from over there. So let's go ahead and throw in some text. I don't know what GDI plus means, but we'll go ahead and start here. We'll do open sands, make it pretty big. Bolded open sands, what up? Color. We want something that stands out against my background, which is blue. Maybe we'll do some red. Red's always good. Alright, and we'll just do Ask Me Anything LOL edition. Swell. Oh. Haha. That's good enough. I'm sure I can make it a lot prettier another day. But for now, I think that's A-okay just fine. Alright, let's go ahead and I'll hop over to Summer School and start knocking them out. Summer School. Alright, simple questions, simple answers, patch 7.17. There is a lot of comments in here. Oh man, maybe we'll just kind of see how it goes here. Alright, question number 1 from Jadarko. How do I do with Vayne plus Nami as Twitch and Rakan? So he's asking if they're playing Twitch and Rakan, how do they do against Vayne Nami? Every trade they seem to lose because of Nami, and should they just stick out the lane phase or are they doing something wrong? So in this matchup in particular, it's really all driven by the skill nature of Rakan's skill shot being a straight line projectile that can be blocked by minions. Can I ask quickly, is the music too loud? You know, on my end it's really loud, but I think I can just turn down my master volume without it affecting the stream. Because when I looked at the VOD of my last stream, the music was barely audible at all. But in my ear, in my microphone, or my headphones right now, it's super loud. Alright, I'm gonna lower this. I'm gonna lower my max volume. I don't know if this affects the stream audio at all. I just cut my master volume by 50%, so hopefully you can still hear me okay, and hopefully you're getting small hints of the music rather than an overbearing techno, you know, hardcore remix thing that I'm listening to now. Alright, so getting back to the question. So the question is, basically Twitch and Rakan versus Vayne and Nami. How do you beat them? You know, how do you win? So Rakan's Q, which is the sustainability, is a line skill shot. It can't go through minions, whereas Nami's W is, right? So when I say is, I mean it can go through minions, right? You can fire that projectile as long as you have vision and you're in range of the opponent. And this makes the sustained trading very one-sided if you only look at it from that perspective, right? So a couple different things you're looking at is how well can Rakan actually get into the brush and control the brush. Now, if it were Vayne Twitch, if it were Twitch and Rakan versus, say, Caitlyn and Nami, this might not be possible, right? Or Lucian and Nami even, or any of the really strong, maybe Jhin and Nami. This wouldn't really be possible for Rakan to take control of the bush. It's just there's too much of a matchup differential, and he's just going to have to play a more honest game. But against Vayne, Twitch has the DPS advantage early game, no doubt. I mean, all the way up through plenty of levels until it gets to the point where the winner of Twitch versus Vayne is whoever gets the drop on the other player, but that's in mid-game. Right? In early game, Twitch has her beat, no sweat, well into level 9 plus, I think, or at least until a couple backs have happened. So how does all this come together? Well, if Twitch is applying pressure appropriately to Vayne, right, then Rakan should be able to comfortably get into the bush, into the lane bushes. Why is this important? Well, when you move into the lane brushes, what you're doing is you're getting an opportunity for a clear shot on your Q if Nami tries to contest you in the brush, right? If she goes into her brush and she's trying to poke you, a couple interesting things are happening, right? One is that she no longer has minions to block for her when you're firing your healing quill, right? And without minions to block for her, the matchup becomes much more realistic in terms of sustain. Another interesting thing that happens in this matchup, if you pull towards the brush and you try to control the brushes, is that Nami has to make different decisions than she used to make, right? In the past, Nami was able to always, if you were in the center of the lane, pick and choose how she wanted to bounce her W, right? If she sees Twitch in an aggressive position and Vayne is wanting to trade with him, all she has to do is W the Twitch for the highest amount of damage on the W, and then it'll bounce to Vayne for a heal, right? And then if Rakan comes in at that point, it'll bounce a third time, but we'll just assume that that's not happening. She can also, depending on how the Twitch and the Rakan have focused, right? If they have poked down the Nami, she can self-cast the heal, bounce it off Twitch's face onto the Vayne. And that's because all the champions are really tightly packed in the middle of the lane, which is usually what you want, right? But with Rakan in that matchup, if you pull off to the side, she no longer has these access to the same bouncing patterns, which should, cut down the amount of value that she's getting out of her W, right? So a couple different things happen. It opens up you for more Qs, so you can compete a little bit better in the sustain game, and of course it opens up or it hinders Nami in terms of her max potential for trading. Seem to lose because of the Nami. Well, that's the right answer, right? Because Vayne is essentially pure vanilla in the early levels. All she has is a tumble. I guess, Condemn, if you're positioning properly, like Condemn should never hit the 80 carry. And it shouldn't really matter if she uses it on Rakan, right? Because if you shield immediately when she does the Condemn, or if you just walk, it should be just fine. Note that Vayne can Condemn you out of your W. So that's always something to kind of keep in mind. So should I just stick out the laning phase, or am I doing something wrong? Okay, let's look at the one last component of this matchup and try to break it down. So we talked a little bit about poking and a little bit about sustain. We talked about controlling the brush, giving you more opportunities to work your kit. I guess that's something I didn't really touch on. If you're playing Rakan and you're able to control the bush and you're able to actually push Nami out of the bush, she has to ward, right? But their wards are finite. They only have so many wards that they can use. Do they use the wards to protect themselves from jungle ganks through the river or the tri-bush? Do they use their wards to keep you at bay so they keep vision of you at all times in the lane bush? They can't keep everything warded at all times. There's durations to those wards, and there's charges, and they can't just keep everything warded. So by taking up the control of the bush, forcing them to use their wards, Rakan, gets access to a lot of pressure that he might not have had before. The jungler gets more pressure, Rakan can get more pressure. They can't see you, they have to always be nervous about the Q from the bush, where they won't be able to see the startup animation. You'll land more Qs. If they can't see you, they always have to be worried about the W engage, which is pretty threatening. Which brings me to the last point that I was going to make about this matchup, and that is that Rakan has a way easier time setting up ganks than Nami, because W with Rakan is way easier to hit than Bubble. He also has a lot of mobility, right? So Rakan can play pretty far forward and know that if the enemy jungler shows up, or if a teleport gank happens, or if Nami's about to land that sick bubble, he can just shield right back to the AD carry, or worst case scenario, he can W out and then shield to the AD carry, and it'll be fine. But think about Nami, you know, she doesn't have access to those tools. She has good range, but when she steps forward, every time she does that, she's taking a pretty big risk. Rakan plays extremely well for setting up junglers. You know, he's got incredible engage, lots of mobility. You know, you can hang back a little bit behind your AD carry and then do like shield flash W. That's, you know, you'll set up a huge play really quickly. So interaction with junglers is a big part of that lane. You know, if left just to yourself, Vayne Nami or Vayne Sona could probably out-sustain and be very comfortable against Twitch and Rakan. They could probably just chill until level 6 until they're more comfortable, or chill until the back. You know, but Rakan, one of his biggest strengths of his kit is setting up the jungle ganks, you know, and that's both at the early levels, you know, levels 2-ish, 3-ish, as well as the level 6 when he gets ult. Just make sure you're doing your ult before your charm, that way Vayne has no chance of tumbling out, right? A lot of Rakans haven't caught on yet that you're supposed to ult and then use your W. I'm not really sure why. It's common knowledge for a while, but I hope that gives you some ideas, Jadarko, on how to play that matchup in bot lane. Alright, let's take a look at the next question by GKH9. So, best ADC with an oh shit button that isn't Tristana. Find her boring to play, same for Cait. The positioning is still not that good. A little bit too YOLO. He likes Lucian, but it feels like you don't do enough damage late. Is Zaya a better option? So you essentially mentioned all the champions with the best oh shit buttons, right? I mean, Zaya's ultimate is a fantastic oh shit button. I mean, it's as good as it gets. It's a Zhonya plus DPS plus potential CC. I mean, it's like a moving Zhonya's. I don't even know if you can call it a Zhonya's anymore. It's just like really good. It's like Vlad Pool, right? So if, you know, if that's what you're looking for, that's fantastic. As far as Lucian doing enough damage in the late game, one thing a lot of people take for granted is that like they expect an AD carry to always just like shoot the front line. With Lucian, sometimes you have to play a little differently. A lot of Lucian's damage is built into his ability levels. You know, he scales way better with levels than other AD champions do. Although his late game isn't fantastic for the reason that he has tough time busting down tanks. But that said, he obliterates squishies. I mean, you know, dash in, auto attack Q, you know, and then autos, and they're probably dead with a Bork. So, you know, if you want to do more damage with Lucian, there's a couple different things you want to check, you know, especially because you said you love Lucian. I mean, if you love Lucian, then you should be playing more of him. First and foremost is trying to find a way to get past the enemy front line to burst down squishies and then kite out, right? Lucian might not be able to do a ton of damage to tanks, but he can kite them really well, especially if you're managing your passive very well to get the dash up more often, right? You can go deeper than a lot of AD carries, most AD carries can. You know, the AD carries that traditionally, and I know that you're probably thinking about Vayne, so we're going to set Vayne aside for just a moment, but AD carries that traditionally do a lot more damage need to rely on their range, and they rely on steady, you know, DPS. You know, Twitches, Kog'Maws, you know, Draven does a lot of damage, you know, but he doesn't have any kind of blink ability or anything like that. You know, these characters, they, you know, Jinx, Varus, you know, they do tremendous amounts of damage to frontliners and squishies alike, but they have a really difficult time getting sticky champions off. And for, you know, you might say, well, oh, with good kiting, you know, any AD carry can peel off or get off any bruiser, but you have to remember that as you're climbing the ladder, like the enemy melee champions, or enemy melee players rather, are getting better and better right alongside you, so they learn newer tricks to stay attached and to continue hunting you down. So I think you should play Lucian more. I think that you should try experimenting a little better with picking targets. You already sound like you have a pretty aggressive play style. So, you know, just kind of, you know, get deep into that team fight and try to find a new angle to get in without actually suiciding your champion. That's one idea. The other idea is that when people play a really aggressive champion, they tend to forget some fundamentals or some basics with League of Legends, right? If you feel like you're saying to yourself, I'm not doing enough damage with Lucian in the late game, have you ever considered how much farm you're missing, right? Or have you ever figured that, in the situations where maybe you could have gotten just an assist, you went deeper, got the kill, but then because you got the kill, you missed out on an opportunity to farm a wave, getting massive amounts of gold through farm is a direct translation to doing more damage in the late game, right? A lot of people get the wrong idea when they hear pros talk, and the pros they'll say like, okay, Lucian doesn't scale very well, he doesn't do very good damage late game, but they're talking like late game. We're talking like 4 finished items on a champion, maybe 5 plus boots kind of a thing, late game. And they're also talking under the context of frontliners. In professional games, it's very rare for a AD carry to ignore the frontliners, and move past to damage more valuable targets. But in solo queue, at least from like diamond on down, maybe even in masters, it should be pretty easy to find yourself better targets with Lucian. So, and then you'll feel like you're doing a lot more damage, so that's good. Is that Super Mario RPG in the background? Yes, it is. This is one of my favorite pictures ever. I love this picture. Let me see. Let me unvisualize, or where's my mic? There we go. Yeah, it is. Here's the start, and it comes down. This is the rapids, and then the mines, and then that the tower. Oh, what's the guy's name? I don't remember what his name was. And then the Mallow land up here. And this is the sunken ship. Was a lot of fun. A lot of, this is where you fought the Axum Rangers, so somewhere in here, I love this picture. It's a fantastic one. Oh, I realized that my mouse might not have synced up with where I was pointing. But you probably recognized a couple of the places. Yeah. So that was a little bit about AD carries with oh shit buttons. Sometimes, rather than thinking about things in broad terms, you should try to also think about things broken down into case-by-case scenarios. One of the best ways to improve at League is to identify specific situations that you're having trouble with, and then finding specific answers to them, and then building on that, right? So, for example, if you want an oh shit button for team fighting, where you're getting Malphite ulted, Zed flashes on you, and ults, these kinds of things. Xayah, she's your oh shit button, right? She's perfect for that. But if your need of an oh shit button comes in the form of like, I'm constantly in a situation where a projectile is coming at me, and I need some kind of dash to outplay that, right? Again, Lucian is fantastic. You said you didn't like Tristana or Caitlyn, the more rangy types, so I take it, you want more up and close DPS. You may want to even consider Ezreal. I know his win rates aren't fantastic, but like if your specific problems is a Blitzcrank pull, Ezreal can negate that for free by just blinking out of it. It can hit him and he can blink out of it. Same with Tristana. So there are different AD carries that can manage it. Any AD carry can buy an oh shit button with Mercurial Scimitar. That's something that lower elo players just seem to never ever buy. It's fantastic. You have to train your reflexes a little bit, but you can buy an oh shit button and buy Mercurial. And you're like, maybe you say like, what about knockups? Well, if you're playing Lucian and you have a Mercurial Scimitar, something knocks you up. Like let's just say Alistair WQ combos you. With fast reflexes, you can QSS and then dash. A lot of people don't know that. Or Mercurial Scimitar active and then dash, even if you're knocked up. The only thing you can't do is you can't QSS and then walk. So if you take a character that's already mobile, like Vayne or Lucian or something like that, like with Vayne, if Malphite or Galio ult comes down and boom, knocks Vayne up, QSS tumble, it works. It works. You'll tumble out of the air. It looks really funny. So you can buy it. My guideline for cleanse on AD carry is if there's 3 direct CC abilities that you can cleanse within the mid, jungle, and bot. So if the mid is like TF or Veigar, who have like really pronounced stuns, and maybe your jungler has something like, Fiddlestick's Fear, or who's another good one that you might want to cleanse out of? Rammus Taunt is a pretty good. Rammus's win rate is skyrocketing, so you'll probably see more of him in the coming time. So if you see a Rammus, in a TF mid, and then maybe they have an 80 carry that's like Ashe or Jhin who has CC, or scrap that. Let's say the 80 carry doesn't have CC, but you've got that again. You've got the Veigar mid or the Lissandra ult mid, something like that, combined with like Leona bot lane. You can very well take a cleanse in those games, and it'll pull more weight than the heal if you're good enough at adapting to the fact that you're taking a different summoner spell than you usually do. Some people, they take a different summoner like cleanse, and then they'll push it thinking it's heal all of the time. So that's not really a good strategy for them. That's a tough thing to correct, right? People, when they get that muscle memory, they get stuck on it. But cleanse is pretty viable if you can, again, 3 key CCs that you won't be able to just manually juke out of the lanes. You can't juke a TF yellow card. If he shows up behind you, he's going to hit you. And if he's chaining that with like a thresh hook, well, all of a sudden cleanse becomes a lot better than heal. So think about that as well. There's lots of ways to address specific problems. That was GKH9. All right, let's look at the next one. I don't believe it. Milkman Dan 98. I wonder how many Milkman Dans there are. Milkman Dan. I wonder if it's it doesn't look like our dear friend, but it's rather amusing to see that name. Milkman Dan 98. What is the typical rank people get at first? Just got ranked at Silver 5 for my first time and want to compare that to the average first rank. So from what I've seen, Silver is the average first rank. Most people fall into Silver. If you have somebody guiding you, giving you guidance, a coach, friends that are higher elo, that kind of thing, it's very conceivable to get gold. I think if you come into League of Legends with a competitive background, like maybe you played Counter-Strike and you were successful in ladder there, or StarCraft, you were successful in ladder there, Hearthstone, even if it doesn't have a direct MOBA experience, if you've played in a competitive atmosphere and found success before, chances are you'll hit the ground running, you might hit gold. But I think Silver is pretty much the average. If somebody comes in with no guidance, they just play games casually, chances are you'll get placed in bronze. A lot of people Dunning-Kruger affected up and then they have no idea why they got placed in bronze, but realistically, if you don't come from a competitive background, if you don't have friends or coaches helping you out, and you just splat, I'm going to play video games, you'll probably hit bronze. I'm going to answer a couple questions from the chat. That was Milkman Dan 98 from Zephyrhawk. What should I focus on as an aspiring top laner? So this is going to be strictly my opinion rather than maybe what's commonly accepted. But I think right now top lane is in an interesting place because you can literally play, at least in solo queue, any role, any type of champion, right? I play marksmans up there all the time. I play more unique champions like Alawi. People like the hardcore bruiser-esque type, the snowballers. A lot of people settle on just tanks. So what I would do as an aspiring top laner, there's 2 routes. One is if you want to grind elo for this season, you want to increase in elo. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you have time and you're willing to just improve over time, what I would do is I would reset a little bit. I would step back and ask yourself what looks the most badass in League of Legends and start fresh. What is the coolest thing that you can see in League of Legends and play that top lane, whether it's an assassin or a mage, a scrap convention, just ignore outside influences like meta or, these kinds of things, and just play something cool that you like top and then develop it, because when I look across the board at a lot of my friends or past teammates who ladder way higher than I do, they always, every freaking top laner up there has their like marquee 3 champions that don't really fit in the meta. You know, they're Nidalee players that are just whooping so much ass, Irelias, and you know, and then of course you got your guys that play, you know, more standard champs like Fiora and whatnot. But I would try to think thematically about like what looks the most cool. Like, you know, what's the most exciting? What's the most fun? League's an old game. You know, you got to make sure that you're still having fun and still, you know, being motivated to pick up the game. And I would pick up that champion and I would develop a play style based around that role. And then the other idea is like, what does an aspiring top laner focus on if they want just to get the next rank? You know, from silver to gold, gold to plat, plat to diamond. You know, what should they focus on? For me, as a coach, I've seen that the 2 most dramatic improvements for a top laner is finding peace with the fact that I call it is what it is kind of a thing, where you know you might get camped and your team might not do anything. You know, you might win your lane, you might crush your lane, but your bot lane is just so bad that they can't manage to pull together a game because you're a top laner. You don't have very many win conditions like a lot of the other roles like jungle, mid, and AD carry. You know, top laners don't have a lot of win conditions. They have stomp their opponent in lane and do good teleport ganks. So because of that, I think I would feel like top lane gets more variance in their win-loss. Like that means that when you know you're doing really well, there's a higher chance you'll lose, and when you're doing really poorly, there's a higher chance you'll win compared to the other roles. That can be good and bad. And learning to accept that and learning to, you know, just be okay with that and keep queuing up for more games, stay on your schedule, you know, your practice regimen or whatever it is. That's a really good thing for a top laner. I have a similar talk with support players. You know, support players always, every student that's a support player, you know, I'm playing out of my mind, I'm playing fantastic, I just can't win games, you know, etc., etc. Find peace with the fact that there's a lot of variance for top and support, a lot more than the other roles. So that's one thing. The other thing is jungler interaction. That's, if you're an aspiring top laner, it's time to learn to interact with your jungler better, and it's time to learn to interact with your opponent's jungler better. You know, as a top laner, I can tell you that 99% are not try hard enough to track the enemy jungler's movements the best they can. You know, pay attention to where they start, what routes they're taking, what champion they're playing, what tendencies do they have. You know, top laners are not the kind to want to buy, you know, and always have a pink ward at all times, or to do, you know, put out the ward at the correct time. Every top laner is trying to cut corners. You know, no top laner wants to interact with the enemy jungler properly, in that you know, they don't understand when it's appropriate to potentially push really hard in 2v1, push really hard and then retreat, or just not push really hard and play super duper passive, play like a bitch. You know, learning to interact properly with the enemy jungler based on the state of the game is super important. And then as far as your jungler is concerned, you know, in the past, popular comments have been made that top is a 2v2 lane with both junglers supporting their tops. And I don't think that could be further from the truth. If you blow the enemy summoner in lane, reset, stabilize, get healthy, you know, buy items, and then, you know, for 3 minutes, convince, yell, beg, do whatever you have to get that jungler to come top. Learn to interact with your jungler, especially if your champion supports it. You know, if you're playing tanks, you're not utilizing your opponent, like if you're playing a tank and you're not utilizing your jungler to come burst your lane down, then you're playing wrong, right? If you're just trying to be a tank and just sit in your lane against like a Fiora or a Nectin or, you know, God knows what other terrors are top, Darius, Teemo, you know, if you're just trying to tough it out because that's like you're like the strong silent type, screw that. No way. Get the jungler to come. Use your CC on that dude. Burst them. Wait for them to teleport back in the lane. Tell your jungler to wait in a bush and then do it again. You know, just use your champ's kit for what it's meant for. Not in this weird warped sense that like I'm a tank and I should just try my best to hold the lane. You know, fuck that. It doesn't work. You know, and conversely, if you're a snowbally champion, you know, make sure that you're trying to interact only if it's you know, relevant with your jungler. Like if you guys lose the 2v2 too hard, like don't bait your jungler into coming top. You know, just, you know, play to the jungler interactions is like really, really good. Jason asks, or maybe I should start calling you Kimotsu. I always felt like Ki should be K-I, but Kaimotsu? That's K-A-I. We'll say Kimotsu. I'll just say Jason. How do you keep up on farming when you're also roaming and getting camped, zoned, and specifically in mid lane? So, this is a fantastic question. I really like working with students on this question. So, how do you keep up in farm? Well, the first thing is that context is everything, right? So, the way you keep up on farm is because it looks cool. Nice, good choice. Yeah. The way you keep on farm when you're winning or you have control of your lane is very different than the way you keep up on farm if you're behind. So if you're winning and you've got control of your lane, chances are to keep up on farm, you actually don't do anything with farm. The trick is that when you before you roam, you need to pre-plan your roams, and you need to pre-plan them based on the wave. So when you're planning on roaming, you shove your wave so hard, and then you threaten the enemy so he can't freeze, and then you immediately vanish from the map. Even if you don't roam, you get that wave shoved, and then you get yourself into a position where they can't see you anymore, so they have to start pinging MIA pings. And you repeat this process over and over and over again. How do you keep up on farm? If you shove a wave and then you roam, your opponent's always on the back foot. They have to choose, do I sacrifice or do I roam? See, sacrificing and roaming is very different than pushing and roaming because it's all about tempo. A lot of people don't really understand that word unless they play chess or they play some other form of game where you have to temporarily sacrifice momentum in order to make a play. So with tempo in mid lane, if you shove your lane and you can be first on the scene somewhere else, the opponent's reacting, right? So let's say you shove a wave, you roam, and you gank, right? And then the opponent catches that wave, so you guys are each at one wave total. Then they push another wave, right? And so now they're up a wave on you. When you roamed and then you recalled, you lost a wave of CS, right? Even if you pushed, assuming they kept pushing. If they ate the wave and then roamed, then you're not really sacrificing a wave, right? You're meeting up with them and the wave is meeting in the middle. Let's just say that you roamed and they stayed mid. They're like a Luxor and a Nivea or something. They cleared the wave, so you lost a wave of CS because you roamed and then recalled. And you come back. You're down a wave. But an interesting moment happens when you're coming back to lane. We're now in a position where you've spent a tempo to push your wave and then roam and then recall. And now your opponent has a choice to make, right? They're up a wave. Do they stay in lane, or do they do something, right? This is where you cash in, right? If they choose to recall, then you push the wave and now you're even 2-2. The only difference is you got to gank. That's nice, right? You got your roam in. Right? If they try to roam after pushing their second wave, then you get back, you collect that wave, and now the opponent has to recall. Right? And you're 2-2 on waves. So each of you got off of roam. Each of you got 2 waves. But now what's happened? What's happened is that you're in the mid lane, and you have the opportunity now to make another play. See, if you are able to do that when you have control of the lane, you're always a step ahead. You're always up one tempo. And the more tempo you accumulate, just like kills or just like gold, it tends to snowball, right? Before you know it, you're not just up one step, you're up 2 steps. And it's difficult to analyze that by the end of the game unless you have an analyst or somebody that really knows their stuff and can see it. Because if you're just looking at it, you're just looking at the CS numbers, and those can get skewed by all kinds of different stuff. How many times did you take chickens? Right, little raptor guys. How many times did you miss creeps? It's difficult to analyze. Maybe in a given mid game, you miss 2 waves. Who knows, right? It's difficult to keep track of. But if you pay really close attention to that tempo advantage, you can really make it work. And I think that it's difficult to try to keep up with just a specific CS number because that'll swing wildly based on how much you get camped, or how many juicy roams you did. CS by itself is never really a good measurement, in my opinion, unless you're outside of a game, in a custom game, just strictly training your mechanic. Just the last hit, right? then it's, you know, it's pretty good then as a measurement. Otherwise, I would say pay attention to how many waves, you know, you were in. Even if you missed creeps, just being in the wave is good, you know. You know, keeping up on farming is a funny thing. I always that kind of question can get what's the best way to put it? It can get asked in a lot of different ways. How do I farm better? How do I get more creeps? You know, how do I keep up on farm when I'm roaming? You know, how much CS should I have by 10 minutes? That question can get thrown around in all kinds of different contexts. Hey Matt, what's up, dude? How you doing? What I generally tell everybody is that it's a multi-piece process that you're piecing together, right? You know, there's the actual mechanic of last hitting in lane. You can get more farm that way. There's the understanding of wave control, which again we were talking a little bit about tempo. Wave control fits in with that, all the like, right? There's the collecting giant globs of CS, right? This is something I'm notorious for, and a lot of players don't take advantage of it, is if I see an unattended glob of CS anywhere on the map, I just immediately go to it unless somebody else is already there. I'm polite in that regard, but if there's unattended farm anywhere and I'm a carry of any kind, AP carry, AD carry, assassin, I don't care. I'll just go and take that farm, right? Big globs of creeps, you know. And what that really translates into isn't like a big glob of creep status. It's how you're spending your time, right? Because you can tediously last hit in lane squared off against your mage opponent. You can tediously last hit through 4 waves of CS, or you could be on time, first to the scene for a big-ass glob of creeps, and for way less time, you can earn the same amount of farm, right? Like, a lot of people don't realize that, you know. It's important. It's an important detail. You know, I think before anything else, how you manage your time in League is super important. I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but you want better farm? Well, rather than thinking, like, how do I last hit more minions, why don't you think, how do I waste less time while I'm roaming? You know, what do your roams look like? How much time do you spend in bushes? You know, how much time do you spend, you know, like, licking your wounds after the gank went bad? You know, maybe you chose a bad gank and then you had to heal, or you had to go do something, or you had to hold, you know, hold a position for somebody, you know, hold the tower. Maybe you spent time with that AD carry pushing, you know, like where's your time? Maybe you spent too much time trying to find that perfect spot to recall. Maybe you could have done a dirty recall and just taken a risk. You know, the more time you can shave off, you know, like one thing I always stress with students is when you're pushing any given lane, you have that 6 minion or 7 with the cannon lineup, the split second you last hit that last creep, that creep is dead, you need to be productive. What can you do? Can you farm chickens? Can you roam and apply pressure? Can you get a recall in? I want your champion literally at the split second that last projectile leaves your character to already be doing something productive again. You do that, your creep score will naturally improve as a result. So do that. Yeah, Matt joined lane. Matt, did you catch the question from Milkman Dan 98? Tell me that's not a coincidence. Dang, I'd do anything for a brewski right now. I forgot to put my beers in the fridge. I had to run around doing errands today. Now my heart is broken. Alright. So pretty good questions overall. Let's go ahead and take a look. Take a quick peek at my phone. I messaged a couple people about the stream, so I kind of want to make sure that I'm not... Oh, it's Tommy. Any skills that you can convert from ADC to the other roles? Well, absolutely. Like, for starters, orb walking. As a melee champion, orb walking is hella important, and people just don't get that idea. Orb walking is a melee champion, super important. You know, so transfer that skill set over from AD carry right away. Specifically, when you say other roles, it's a little tricky. Different types of AD carries do different things, right? So, for example, something you might learn from characters like Lucian or Draven or Quirky is how to manage your burst really well. So I'm at this level, I have this many points in my abilities, I know I can produce this much damage as a kind of a shocker, you know, and then executing on it. And that applies to spellcasters in all roles alike, right? Bush control and zoning, again, is a very, very AD carry centric thing. And in top lane, you'll get that any kind of ranged versus melee matchup. So you're playing Gnar against Jax, you're playing Teemo against anything, you're playing, I like Quinn, you know, you're playing Quinn against Darius or something, right? In all of those matchups, learning to control the bush and control, like, you know, move just outside of the bush, auto attack, move just back inside of the bush. That mechanic is, you know, having that kind of fine control of your character is a very AD carry specific thing, and I think that's fantastic. A lot of AD carries are skill shot heavy, right? So, you know, that's an important detail. A lot of mages in the solo lanes, even if their auto attack isn't that good, so take a champion like, I don't know, Rise, you know, he doesn't really have anything remarkable about his auto attack. You know, he just throws a little rocket, little pebble of energy at people, you know. But that doesn't change the fact that it, you know, you still have to maximize it, right? So a lot of people think like, oh, AD carry, you know, you have to be like hella good with your auto attacks if you want to advance in League, because, you know, you build AD items and, you know, you do damage. And then they say like, oh, you want to play mages? Well, you know, you have to be hella good with skill shots and your spells and stuff. The truth is that if you want to be good at League of Legends, you got to be good at both of those things for both of those roles, and you got to be pretty darn good, because, you know, if you're a mage and you're a ranged mage and you're casting a string of combo, you know, or like a combo, you need to be orb walking. You need to understand how your attack speed works, right? Because a lot of people, like, they think auto attack, spell, auto attack, but, you know, depending on how long or what your attack speed is, you might have more time in there. So you'll need to do auto attack, spell, walk, a little shimmy, auto attack, then a big step for your next walk, right? You know, you have to be good at both. If you're a mage, you know, what if you end up with a red buff? You know, you need to be able to utilize that thing. You know, what if your character has a passive like Ziggs? You know, Ziggs is passive or his empowered auto attacks like a Lich Bane on staff or on site. You know, these are traditionally AD carry mechanics, but they're super important for the other role. And same thing with AD carries. Unless you're playing like a super traditional turret style AD carry, you know, you're gonna have to know how to land skill shots and how to pressure people into, you know, getting hit by it. I think those are probably the most applicable ones. Last hitting is always important. I always think that the AD carry is like kind of like the hub of basic League of Legends basics. You know, like you need good positioning, you need to know how to burst and interact with your opponents, you need you know, have reflexes, you need good control, like muscle control of your character. You know, there isn't really a mechanic, I don't think, in League of Legends that AD carries don't do. You know, like what don't AD carries do? You know, you might say smite, but even then, like Jhin with his last auto attack and Callisto with her Ren pop, like AD carries smite too. You know, they do everything right now. AD carries have always done everything. So you'll find mechanics that you'll carry over, just in all of that. All that mess. I think it's more interesting to look at it from the other perspective. You know, like what do the solo lanes take with them to the AD carry? That's a little more tricky. Because if you ask the question in reverse, or if you were to say what, you know, like you asked, what mechanics can an AD carry over to the solo lanes? You know, then you're in a situation where I just kind of want to say everything. They carry everything over with them. It is good to take a turn at AD carry in your play group. Looks like our music stopped. Music of League of Legends Volume 1. I'll bite. Alright. Cool beans. Let's go ahead and head back to the subreddit. Yeah, real skills. Yeah, I mean, some solo laners have ridiculously difficult mechanics, you know, the Rivens and the Yasuos and stuff. But I find that to be very character specific, so I usually don't get into that. But in just terms of League fundamentals, AD carries, yeah, you got it all. Positioning, etc. Best supports to play with as Jhin, Trist, or Cait, and they're silver. So for Jhin, without a doubt, I think the strongest, actually for Jhin and Caitlyn, I think the strongest support is Nami. Nami does a couple things really interestingly with Jhin. For starters, you bounce a W off of anything onto any champion, and then Jhin can root them with his long range root. I think it's his W. You know, so that's pretty interesting. The other thing that Nami does really well with Jhin is that because Jhin applies a fair amount of pressure, and when I say this, I mean more under the context that as he's ramping up, so first auto attack, you know, second auto attack, orb walking, grenade pops out, bouncing grenade, and then like third auto attack. When you get to this fourth auto attack, tell me what the enemy is doing, right? They're running. They are running from that fourth auto attack. I do not think they're going to stand and contest that fourth auto attack unless they think they can kill the Jhin. But if it's a trading and Jin's built up that momentum and he's got access to his root and his fourth auto attack, no enemy is going to just stand there and take it, right? So they're going to back up. And when they commit to that movement pattern, Nami swoops in with her bubble, which is normally really difficult to land. But because they're under such immense pressure from Jhin, it becomes very easy to predict where they're going and very easy to line up that skill shot, right? You know, especially if you're applying your E, Nami's E. I think Nami plus Jhin is one of the best comps in the game. Last season, you know, I used with a couple different AD carries that I duoed with. I played a lot of Nami and had a ridiculous win rate by the end of it. I think it was like 68% or something like that. And with a lot of games played, Nami Jhin is awesome. Nami Caitlyn is awesome for a different reason. I think they're awesome just because they're probably the most overbearing lane in the game. Nami Caitlyn or Sona Caitlyn they're just nasty. Caitlyn has 650 range, so what happens is you put your E steroid on her, and she auto-attacks something from that far away. It hurts them a lot. You know, she gets headshot procs, sets up your bubble because of the slow. I mean, like, what do you do against Caitlyn? You know, already it's super tough, but the answer is you get in on Caitlyn, right? That's the idea. Nami doesn't let that happen, though. You know, her W is extremely potent. So even if you get to Caitlyn, the sustain and then the damage, and if you're focused on Caitlyn, Nami heals Caitlyn, bounces off Caitlyn's face onto the enemy, bounces off the enemy back to Nami. Full value. You can't really get in on Caitlyn. Caitlyn nets, it slows the enemy down, she gets burst damage, she auto-attacks, Nami bubbles, Caitlyn traps on top of the bubble. That's like 5 headshots. That lane is cheap, right? I mean, super good. Another reason I was just thinking, I forgot about ultimates. Another reason why Nami synergizes really well with Jhin is that her ultimate is super good. Because if Jhin shows up to the scene, any scene, maybe he's late or maybe it's just the people he was skirmishing with, and he drops his ultimate. What do people most of the time do against Jin's ult? Well, they get that, they realize they're screwed and they wiggle back and forth relentlessly, right? Well, Nami can just ult that and then bubble it, you know, like in the middle, and then Jhin gets all his shots. Or what else do they do? Well, they hard book it to one of the sides to try to get out of the cone, right? They're trying to book outside of the cone, and then Nami just puts the ult right on the line. So you can either eat the Nami ult and then get hit by a Jhin shot for free, or you can, I don't know what you can do. That shit's hard to deal with. I don't really know what you're supposed to do there. That's a tough situation. So I definitely think Nami works really well with Jhin and Cait. With Tristana, okay, so here's the gig. Tristana works well with every support. She is one of the most neutral and well-rounded AD carries in the game. Good laning phase, good mid-game, good late game. Good pushing, good siege, good team fighting, good poking. She does it all, and she's very, very well-rounded. So she can work with any support. I wouldn't try too hard to pick a good support for Trist. I would say pick champions that you like. And that you play well with, right? What is the personality of the Tristana? Is she aggressive? Does she like to jump in? When I play Trist, I'm really aggressive, but I don't really like jumping in. It's like a bit of a, I don't know if it's a paradox if that's the word I'm looking for. I'm really aggressive, but I only save my jump for execute, like to finish the enemy off. In which case, I love it when my opponent can, or my support can just get in there. So for my favorite support for Tristana has always been Alistair or Thresh. You know, Tristana Thresh is great. Anything happens to you at all, you can ult them away and take the Thresh Lantern. That's nice. Anything happens to you, you know. Thresh sets Trist up really well for kills and stuff, so that's nice. I wouldn't really worry too much. Trist works great with anything. Trist with Lulu, for example, great wave control. Nobody can really stop your E passive from blowing up minions and doing splash damage, and Lulu hitting a minion wave with a glitter lance, right? You know, really, really good wave control. Lulu's E synergizes really well with Trist's ridiculous attack speed. You pop that steroid, you know, you're getting all of those picks procs off, like, pretty nice, you know. Tristana's a hyper carry, so Lulu naturally does really well with hyper carries. Zed ults your Tristana, boom, polymorph the Zed and then ult the Tristana, you know, gigantify or whatever she says. So lots of supports work really well with Tristana. Other supports that work well with Cait. With Cait, I never like, or I personally would prefer sustain supports and poke supports. Karma's, Morgana to an extent is pretty good. Sona is probably best. Sona, Nami are best. Janna is good with any AD carry. Yeah, Janna. Pretty good. Yeah, all those supports work well with Cait. With Jhin, Nami is fantastic. Thresh is really, really good with Jhin. Lulu is really, really good with Jhin. I think those ones are the big ones. I think Zyra is pretty good with Jhin. Because from way back range, you can do plant plus Q, and then the plant spits an auto at them, and then they get damaged, and then Jhin can root them, and then Zyra can walk up and blow them up with E-R combo. Yeah, pretty good. Honestly, you picked out 3 of the like very solid AD carries that don't have like specific niches about them, right? Wouldn't you agree? Like Jhin, strong laner, strong mid game, strong team fighting, good sieging. You know, like Caitlyn, good at everything. You know, despite the nerfs and lower win rate, she's still good at everything. You know, Tristana again, good at pretty much everything. Like they're not like champs that need covering for, right? You're playing like a hyper carry like Twitch. You know, what you really want is a Lulu or a Thresh or a Janna to take care of you. You know, so food for thought. Where do you feel Leona sits in the current meta? You're the only one playing her currently, but you've got a badass win rate. So one of my students that does a weekly lesson with me mains Leona, and you know he's doing fine as well. A pretty darn good win rate with Leona. I think Leona, I check on her op.gg pretty frequently, and she's always above 50%. I think Leona has always been in the exact same spot she has always been, and that's she's a very specific type of champion. She's your tank that brings burst potential. She's your really good at duo queue, maybe, you know, difficult and frustrating to play in solo queue. She's always been that way. Leona really hasn't changed that much. Her most recent patch was that she got more damage on her passive and her Q cooldown got reduced. So that's only like the only good things came from that patch for Leona. I think she's fine. The trick is that Leona more so than other champions, and I guess this is what I'll close on, Beer Man Stan. Leona, unlike other champions, plays the matchup more adaptively than all other supports. You know, the way she plays against a Morgana is totally different than she plays against a Thresh, is totally different than she plays against a Janna, is totally different than she plays against a Sona. Matchups are very rich with Leona. That's because of the nature that she isn't pulling enemies to her, she's going in. She's setting up the burst, right? And all of these different abilities make it really difficult to interact, you know, in different ways. Thresh can flay you back, you know, Black Shield by Morg or Tornado from Janna. You know, you have to really play the matchup, whereas most supports just do the same thing all of the time. Even if they're a dynamic support like Thresh, he's just like, I just want to hook the AD carry and you know, flay stuff off my AD carry and use my ult and my lantern, all the same. You know, he's dynamic, he makes a lot of decisions, but they're not matchup specific. So when you think Leona and meta, you're always thinking like, well, who's super meta right now as support? Well, Janna, Sona, Soraka are all super meta right now because of Ardent Censer. So if you can see a Janna ban, because, you know, she's got like a 57 plus win percent in Diamond, you know, if you see the Janna ban has already happened, well then, you know, that helps Leona. Even if Janna's good against Leona, if she's banned, you know, that's a step towards Leona. You know, if you know that they're going to pick a character like Soraka, get ready, or Sona, get ready to take Ignite and tell the AD carry to play something that can jump in and mess somebody up. I think Leona's fine. I think one thing I've always loved about Leona is just that she plays interesting. You know, she adapts to the matchups. Dumb question regarding her latest updates. Since Q is now on a static cooldown and the duration of stun is always 1 second, do you max E second on her now? Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely do. In the past, I've always leveled Leona in a way to try to bring her E and Q cooldown into line with each other, which I believe was, if I'm not mistaken, it was max, or putting more and more points into E. You know, so that's kind of interesting. Now that it's more stationary or more static, I think I hear my Facebook chimes going off. Oh, Facebook Messenger. I tried to stay away from Facebook so much. Oh, my friend got caught up in Hurricane. Love to... Alright, sorry for that interruption. Yeah, I think bringing it back in line with the Q cooldown is good. Most of the time Leona does her combos in sets, right? You know, so having them line up with cooldowns is a good thing. I think I was doing that before myself. Maybe op.gg suggested something different before, but I would definitely max my E second. Worth a lot more, I think. Cool. We're getting a little close to giveaway time. 20 more minutes. Let me go ahead. My cousin, I'm sure, would love the opportunity to get in on this. I'll tell her, get on and ask a question. Giving away Pax Sivir 8:30 p. Twitch TV. Jono coaching, come ask a question. Hehe. Alright, sweet. Looks like there will be pretty good odds tonight. It doesn't look like that many people showed up this time around, so that's good for the people who are here. Jay Harrer, what's up? How you doing in the chat? I should take a moment to also thank... well, maybe I'll do that at the end of this stream. I got a couple of subs that came in off stream hours, so that was kind of surprising. Or not subs, but follows, rather. So, cool. I'll try to remember to thank those people. Alright, let's go ahead and hit up the next question. Oh, that's a big one. Oh, should I even read it? I'm trying to find a new top... yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, here's one. Pax Low. I so far have about a 0 to 10% win rate when autofilled as support, playing Alistair or Scion. Who is the easiest and most influential support a non-supporter can use? I have Soraka. Is she the go-to for noobs? This is for Pax Low. Absolutely not. You know, Soraka used to be the easiest support to play. Nowadays, you have to manage so much stuff, and if you're playing in an environment where people actually know to go after you, that can be really difficult. The easiest supports to play for a non-support player are as follows. One is, where are you coming from? You know, what role are you coming from? If you're coming from mid lane, you would probably like a lot of the mage style supports that you might have access to. Annie is easy to play. Brand is easy to play if you can land your Q and, you know, understand the concept of combos. Zyra can be easy to play after a couple games. You got Vel'Koz, Morgana, right? If you play mid lane, you'll get it home, you know, just fine by playing mage supports in bot lane. Pick one of them and just only play that support, and you'll do a-okay. If you're coming from a lane like top lane, you know, then I would say you're probably on the right track. You know, Nautilus is really, really good for this. Alistar should... I wouldn't play Alistar. I would say Nautilus or Sion. Yeah, good picks. Those are good picks. They're tanky, and you're probably used to them in top lane. They're not very difficult to play. Alistar can be a little tricky to play, and decision-making can be sometimes tough on him. You know, do you flash Q and then use your headbutt to peel? Do you WQ combo and then leave your AD carry left for dead if something goes on them? Do you have to flash Q headbutt backwards? Like, what is the correct way to use all your abilities? It's not easy with Alistar. A lot of decision-making. Whereas Nautilus and Sion, yeah, they should be pretty easy. 0 to 10%, huh? With Sion. Well, I guess you can't play Sion. If you're coming from top lane, you know, give Nautilus a shot, and then if that doesn't work, we'll get to the last category that I was going to bring up, and that is, if you're autofilled support and you're just looking for the easiest and, you know, best influential support, Janna. And if Janna is banned, then Lulu. These champs are so easy to play and to get right. All you have to do is just remember, stand a little bit behind your AD carry, like 2 Alistar lengths behind your AD carry, and then cast all of your spells. That's all. Yes, you can improve your timing. Yes, you can tornado people out of their gap closers. Yes, you can ult. You know, yes, Lulu ult timed well against an assassin is better than just using Lulu ult, but at the end of the day, those champions are really easy to play, and they're very influential, and they're also safe. One thing that a lot of players, one of the reasons you end up with a low win rate is because you don't value yourself enough in the game, right? If you're dying a bunch of support, you're doing it wrong. You know, the goal is always to live, you know, first, and then help others second. It's like, you know what they say every time there's like a chemical outbreak or gas attack or something, you know, you gotta get your mask on first, or in a fire, you know, get yourself to safety first and then start helping others, you know, get that mask on first. So if you're dying a bunch in your autofilled support games, that's why, you know, get that taken care of first. You know, champion might not matter too much. But yeah, easy champion go-to, Janna. Ardent Sensor, Eye of the Oasis, it doesn't matter what else you build. Get a locket, you know, you're good. That'll whoop ass. This question from Jay Harrer in the chat. Outside of CS and level 2 push, what are reliable ways of gaining lane advantage? A couple different things. So, obviously, right, League's a big game, and gaining an advantage in lane is a dynamic process. So a couple different ways you can gain an advantage in lane are by managing your mana better than you're doing it now. So to make that more specific, or to give you better advice, I would say you want to look at things like, are you always regenerating mana, right? And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, they'll hit full mana, and both opponents will be, you know, focused on last hitting, and they'll be trying to like control their waves, maybe a little bit of pushing here to get level 2, maybe a little bit of passive play, but when they're comfortable, they no longer use their mana. You have to always be regenerating mana, and you should almost always be regenerating health as well. That's an interesting concept. Use a little bit of your resources, like a little bit of your health. That way your passive health regen kicks in. Use a spell to help you push the wave, or to harass just a little bit anytime you're approaching near like 95% mana, right? Use a spell right away. Because you always want your mana to be regenerating. If you're always regenerating or always using those stats, then you're naturally going to build advantages over time without really realizing it. That's a good thing. Another way to manage your mana better is to pay really close attention to what level you are and how many points you've put into a given spell. You know, so let's use an example like Kassadin. Kassadin has his Q. It's a Force Pulse, little ball that gives him a mana shield. His W, which stabbities things and restores your mana, and your E, which is a slow. So learning to level up on Kassadin is an interesting thing, because if you are interacting a lot with your opponent on a one-on-one basis, you probably want to conserve your mana the best you can at level 1, and then at level 2, or excuse me, conserve your mana the best you can at level 2, right? At level 1, your Q is fresh and it does X amount of damage. That's great. And then at level 2, even though you've gone up a level with Kassadin, you haven't gained any ability power. You know, your ability hasn't gotten any stronger. All that has changed are Kassadin's base stats, not counting AP, right? Health and damage and attack damage and such. But the Q still costs the same amount of mana and does the same amount of damage as it did at level 1. That gets turned on its head at level 3, where now your Q is almost twice as efficient. Because as you level up, it gets a huge base damage chunk. So at level 3, if you take 2 points in your Q, you want to be harassing like crazy. And then at level 4, you might have guessed where this is going, at level 4 you start conserving your mana again. The reason why is because, again, at level 4 your Q is going to do just as much damage as it did at level 3. You know, because you only had 2 points in it, you only have 2 points in it now. At level 5, you start spending more mana to fight again, because why? It's got 3 points into it. There's a rule that I used to use. I kind of passed on it, but it's kind of like, how does it go? If your character's peak level is the number of points you've put into your spell divided by 2, and then if your level is higher, it's a good time to trade. Is that how it works? So let's test this theory out. If you're level 3 and you've put 2 points in your queue, so then we'll divide 3 by 2 and you end up with 1.5. Sounds about right, because 1.5 is less than the 2 points you have. If you're level 5, you have 3 points in queue, so if you divide 5 by 2, you end up with 2.5, which is less than 3, and so again, 5 is a really good level to trade. At level 4, you have 2 points in queue, and if you divide 4 by 2, you end up, again, 2 for 2, and that's not a good time to trade. That's a weird way of thinking about it, and that's why I've kind of dropped that idea, but the point remains the same. Consider your champion and consider how many points you're putting in your spell. What's the advantage of putting 1 point in every spell at level 3? All-in potential, right? 3 spells, you have a chance to all-in your opponent or defend their all-in, and you'll probably do it a little bit better, right? So if you take all 3 of your abilities, you know, at level 3, you'll have a better all-in, but you won't have a better over time, you know, damage over time, you know, over the lane. You won't have better lane control, you know. So if your character, for example, can put 2 points in their main harassing ability at level 3 instead of 1 in every ability, that is the time to go nuts with harassing and trading, you know, to gain an advantage. You should look at some of the numbers. They'll often blow your mind. I'm always shocked when I see, like, Corky Phosphorus Bomb like increases by 45 damage or something for every point, every level point you... Do you know how much AP you would need to make your spell do 45 more points of damage? Levels for spellcasters are a really, really, really big deal. So learning to trade and harass at the peak levels is, you know, it's a super good way of being efficient with your mana and doing a lot more damage. And yes, Corky's Phosphorus Bomb does do 45 more damage. So again, at level, if at level 3, you have to choose: do I want to take, you know, my 1 point in every ability, Valkyrie, Minigun, and Phosphorus Bomb? If you're going to do an all-in, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But if you just want to harass and poke and trade and build an advantage, you better take 2 points into Q at level 3, and you will be doing ridiculous damage with your Q compared to how much you would do if you didn't. That's a way of getting an advantage. What are some other ways of getting advantage in lane? Well, you know, it's really depends on what kind of an advantage you want. Farming advantage. You know, pushing the enemy under tower consistently is a good way of getting an advantage. Coordinating. We talked a little bit earlier about coordinating jungle ganks is a tremendous advantage. You probably, like most League of Legends players, go to lane and you play your lane out in a very, very 1v1 sense and never ask for help. But the truth is that you can help everybody on your team by having a jungle come and gank you at a desirable time, at a good time. Coordinate that gank. If you just let the jungler come whenever, it's always sloppy. It never works out the way you want it to. But if you coordinate it, it can turn into something really special. Other ways of gaining lane advantage. Well, the more specific the question, the easier it is to answer, right? If I knew a little bit more about what champions you played, I could probably help point you in the right direction a little quicker. Yeah, there's farming advantages. Recall timings are a big one. Learning how to control the wave. I wrote a little bit about it on my website, League Cookie. Oh, where is it? That away. Yeah, there's that link. Yeah, it's over there. League Cookie. Actually, it's not a link. LeagueCookie.com. I wrote 2 chapters on wave control, and I intend on adding more. But learning to control and manipulate waves is a really huge deal in League, and it's something that nobody learns until they study the game later at maybe plat, maybe diamond level. A lot of people never study it. Maybe they just get a feel for it. But learning to set up freezes, or learning to set up slow pushes, or learning to set up resets, learning to reset the wave. All of these things are tremendously helpful to gain advantages or to deny your opponent, right? And in addition to that, I wrote a ton. Let's, just for funsies, I'm going to pull up the website real quick. I haven't gotten a chance to do this yet on stream. We'll call it leaguecookie.com / shameless plug by Jono. Everybody worked really hard on this project, so I don't feel bad at all about plugging it like crazy on my stream. Let me go ahead and add a source here, browser source. We're not going to spend too much time in here, but I just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like. All right. There it is. Okay, can you guys see this? Why is it not full screen? Oh, why is it not full screen? What's going on? Okay, not entirely sure why it's not full screen. Not entirely sure why it's not full screen. But that's okay. I think we'll get the point across. All right, so what I did for League Cookie is I wrote a ton of the lecture notes and lesson information. You're probably not supposed to see that. Turn a blind eye to that. Oh, wait a second. It's not showing up. What I'm doing with the thing isn't showing up on the... Well, let's see what happens. What if I hit programs? I think it's because League Cookie is a little bit more adaptive than the average site, so it's probably pulling up just a still image of the home page. That's okay. What we can do is we can whatchamacallit? We can change this around a little bit. We can remove this. We can add a window capture. We'll call it window capture. Here we go. Okay, alright. Alright. Maybe I'll shrink it a little bit. Sweet! Alright, so one of the things I was most passionate about in my setup, first you gotta go create a profile, which is fun. You should have fun doing this. Anyway, one of the things that I really focused on was a bunch of in-lane ways to get an advantage. Basically your question, right? A lot of this was, covering last hitting in lane, orb walking, your skill shots, aggressive versus passive play. This is a really good chapter right here, all-ins and scoring kills. It outlines a couple different ideas on how you might set up a kill. And again, I know it's pretty text-based, but following steps like this and then paying attention to it, some details on flashing for the kill, You know, this is something I get anytime I play in a elo that's lower than diamond, like platinum or lower. I do this like 8 times a game, right? That's why I wrote about it. I again, I can't wait to put out some better video quality. But this right here, read through some of this. I do this every single game that I play in platinum or lower, all the time. I like it. Just never stops. I always try to lure an opponent into false sense of security in order to collect kills, and it's fantastic. You know, things like timing the enemy flash, tricky movement using fog. Again, text heavy. I know these are some lecture notes and they're pretty long, but so much of what I wrote about here are the wave control chapters. Look at those pretty pictures. Those look gorgeous. Yeah. Anyway. You know, these are all ways that you can gain advantages in lane. And yeah, I worked pretty hard on these. You might want to take a look. LeagueCookie.com. Boom. Oh, how did my chat get up there? This thing cracks me up. Maybe I'll just hit this button. Oh, no, that was the banner. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's funny. Cool. So yeah, that's you know, that's probably the all the info I have on gaining lane advantages transposed into text. All right, let's go ahead and start up a giveaway of Pax Sivir. Let's take a look here. All right, cool. Looks like Carl still joined in the chat, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and I forget what system I used the last time for the raffle. It worked pretty well. It's a shame I don't remember. Does anybody remember what I used last time? Oh, Nightbot. I used Nightbot. Maybe I'll just Google it. Nightbot giveaway. Let's see if anybody on my own chat has... yeah, I remember I used Nightbot, but where was the interface? Where was the interface that I used? I thought it was like a website. Beta. Maybe that's what I messed up. What a cute little Nightbot. Here we are. Yeah, I hadn't actually hadn't logged into Nightbot in ages. Cool. So we need a giveaway word, don't we? Keyword. Awesome. And our keyword is gonna be League Cookie. We'll do it all undercase. I don't know if that makes a difference. Boom. Go ahead and type a League Cookie as your keyword, and it will enter you into a chance to draw a Neo Pax Sivir. Fantastic. This Amumu music is like a little too sad for me. I bet you X Swagner's gonna win it again. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a bit. Alright. I have so many windows open that I'm not used to having open. Let's get Nightbot over here. Alright, looks like we got 6 entrants. I see Beerman Sam thinking about it. You know what you should do, Matt? You should flip a coin first. And if you call it right, then you should enter. And then, if you win the drawing after entering, then you'll know it was fate that you received that Pax Sivir skin. Alright. Yes, do it. Do it. Alright. I'll start the drawing as soon as Matt gets back to me on whether or not he'll enter. Coin flipping app. What kind of a gentleman are you? You should always keep some coin in your pocket for this occasion. Quinn and Valor, huh? I've been playing a lot of Quinn and Valor. I feel like this is the music. You lost the coin flip. No entrance. Alright, cool. Thanks for being considerate of everybody else. Alright, cool. Let's do this giveaway. I can do window capture on, right? Oh, maybe I need properties. Oh, that's cool. Alrighty, guys. Best of 6. Pretty good odds. Let's roll it. Alchemy bio? He didn't even enter! What's up, buddy? I didn't even know you were in my chat. Did you even say anything? You didn't type any keywords. You did? You did type a keyword. Why don't you have a thingy here? Do you see your mark eligible? Do you see this little button? That means Beerman and Swagner were as well. You did type a keyword. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it till the end. Oh, I'm sorry I missed it. I've been so into the answering and stuff. I see it now. Yeah, lead cookie for sure. That's interesting. I think that's interesting because it says right here you weren't eligible. That's amusing. Alright, buddy. Well, I'll get it to you after stream. You can either message me on Skype or on the League client, or we can do it over Twitch after I don't accidentally type it into the Twitch chat. So thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. I think that next stream will be a lot more organized, getting closer and closer to a organized stream. So it should be pretty fun. This weekend, or this week rather, has been rather chaotic, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Yoshi can sense whenever I'm done with streaming. That's kind of funny. Cool. I'm gonna go get some beer of my own. It's been in the fridge for an hour and a half now, so. Can somebody give me some feedback on volume right now for the song? This is a pretty, like, epic rockin' song. How's it doing against my voice? It's good. Good volume, balance, not obstructing. Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. I'll be able to know a little bit more when I look at it in the VODs. So, excellent balabus. Balabus. Alrighty, thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna kill the stream. Next Monday, I'll be doing another Pax Sivir giveaway, and hopefully before the stream starts, I'll actually go through with doing that big shout-out blast that I've been talking about doing. So hopefully we'll have more viewers to keep me company. All right. Thanks again for tuning in, and peace out.